Hey photographers! In this video, I'm going to show you how the Fujifilm X T5 performs for features like autofocus, high ISOs, and burst, but also video features like overheating, stabilization, and rolling shutter. Now, the Fujifilm X T5 camera that I've used for these tests and to record this video is on loan from Fujifilm Canada, but I have no financial relationship with them, and they have not participated, contributed, or reviewed this video. So I'd like to start by apologizing to Christina, who, after watching my review, asked if this camera had a multi-exposure mode. I failed to live up to my detailed hashtag and didn't mention those features in the review. So yes, Christina, there are two hidden bracket features on screen 3 of the shooting menu. Turn multi-exposure on and select the way images are combined, then combine up to 9 frames in a single image. Return to the menu to turn multi-exposure off. Pixel Shift Multi-Shot is also available here. That works best with a completely static scene and while the camera is tethered to a computer. I'll refer you to the demo in the XH2 performance video, which is identical. There's a link in the description. This video is recorded at 4K HQ, all intra 10-bit 422 at 360 megabits, then output and uploaded to YouTube in 4K 16:9 using H.265, the high-efficiency video codec at 10-bit to provide the best quality image, so that you can also judge the comparisons that I've included. And let's start with that. Now that Fujifilm is packing 40 megapixels onto an APS-C size sensor, can image quality be sustained at high ISOs? Starting with ISO 1600, I'm looking at the defocused background and the shadow of the Playmobil character on the right side of the Chroma selfie chart. And when I map the image pixels 1:1 to this 4K video, the resolution of the date under the DSC Labs logo. At ISO 3200, I don't see any change in those details, even when I go 1:1 on the date. At 6400, there's a little definition loss in the shadow, but the date remains clear. At 12800, there's increasing noise in the background, and above the chart on the left, some artifacting in the bokeh. No change in the text. Extended, 25,600. Now the entire image displays some color noise aberration, most pronounced in the background. Then 51,200. Getting pretty splotchy, but in spite of the color noise, at least there's no color shift. And now, a clear loss of definition in the date. So I wondered if HEIF, the high-efficiency still image format, with its increased bit depth and color would improve high ISO images. At lower ISOs, the HEIF image on the right certainly displays richer colors. However, as the ISOs increase at 6400, the background shadow detail looks splotchier in the HEIF image. That deterioration continues to 25.6. And at 51.2, where the color noise of the HEIF image may be slightly worse than the JPEG. That surprised me, but maybe the higher image quality just reveals the deficiencies in the higher ISOs. Next, focus. In manual focus mode, I focus to infinity, and my subject is at the lens's closest focus distance. Press the AF key, a nice Fujifilm feature, as many disable that in manual mode, and focus is fast and accurate. When I reduce the target size and move to a darker subject, not quite as fast, but still very responsive. And when the Surway Dragon light is lowered from 100 to 10, there's a slight back and forth. Back to infinity, and switch to AF single, activate Face Eye Detect. Although it does require 2 presses, again, responsive and accurate, even on this toy's face. And Eye Detect follows the subject as it moves, even in AF single. When the subject is at the very edge of the focus area, performance is the same as the center. We'll get back to AF continuous and tracking in a minute. But for burst, I started with the mechanical shutter. Turn the drive collar to CH, then press the front right side key beside the lens, which opens drive settings. Max is 15 frames. With large 3:2 aspect, fine JPEGs, and manual settings for exposure, white balance, and focus, I recorded to a freshly formatted SDXC card rated for 300 megabytes. These 40 megapixel files are slightly over 8 megs each. The X-T5 snaps confidently and doesn't stutter until 16 seconds, by which time it's saved a total of 245 images, slightly more than 15 per second, and the buffer clears in 2 to 3 seconds, very fast. I switched to the high-efficiency file format. Now the files are about half the size, 4 megs, and strangely, it did save 15 frames, but only for the first 5 seconds. Then it stuttered and slowed to about 7 frames. Not sure why the smaller file size decreases the duration. I'm not happy, finding several reasons to avoid HEIF, for now anyway. So combining JPEG with RAW is predictably disappointing, saving 15 frames only for the first second before slowing to about 6. Switching to the silent electronic shutter slows the full-size rate, but enables up to 20 frames with a 1.29 crop. And these are 24 megapixel images with a file size just over 6 megs. And that's a rate the X-T5 can sustain for over a minute. That's as long as I tested. 1,200 images in 20 seconds. If you need high-speed, buffer-free shooting, that's your setting. Now, let's combine that with continuous autofocus tracking. The train will get to the lens's closest focus point. We start tracking it as it enters the frame. Tracking looks very good. Focus is maintained around the corner all the way to the closest point. Face eye even kicks in at the last minute. But when I actually start shooting, focus holds for a second and then completely drops off. It barely recovers as the train gets to the closest focus point. Now, as the XH2 excelled at this, it's very disappointing to watch the X-T5 fail. I thought maybe it was the crop, but full frame is no better. So if you're looking for the reason to invest a few more dollars and get the XH2, this is it. I enjoy shooting with a slow shutter, hand-holding half a second or less, blurring moving subjects while the in-camera stabilization keeps the background steady. Let me show you what it looks like in the viewfinder with the IS turned off. This is 55mm, but at longer focus lengths, composition will be difficult. When stabilization is turned on, continuous, the viewfinder is steadier, so I'm ready to snap. This is 1/4 second. This is 1/2 second. And 1 second, where there's usually a slight blur, although sometimes I get lucky. On to video, although I'm taking a pass on 6K in this video. At the default video setting, 4K HQ H.264 long GOP 420 8-bit at 100 megabits, a 64 gig card records 81 minutes. Now, if you go to the easier to edit all intra, and the data rate forces to 360, reducing the card's capacity to 23 minutes. H.265, the high-efficiency video codec, records 422 10-bit for 81 minutes. Up to 200 megabits reduces time to 41 minutes, up to 360 and down to 23 minutes. And H.265 all intra, also forced to 360, again 23 minutes. So here's a test. Can you see the difference after these recordings have been processed to your end of the YouTube distribution system? This is H.264 8-bit at 100. And now H.265 10-bit at 100. Let's take the 10-bit recording to 360. Incidentally, you're watching AF continuous with the highest reaction and fastest focus speeds. And for my on-camera scenes, I'm using continuous and area mode as well as face-eye detect, as I did in the review video, and I'm very happy with the results. Even though the face-eye indicator is busy, the focus is solid, without the background wobbles we've seen in the past. Gold star for that. With continuous autofocus in video mode, these are the tracking defaults. I'm using the multi-auto area focus mode, face detect on. The characters' faces are detected, and the train, as it passes the lens's closest focus distance, isn't detected. Would it be detected if I set area to the train's entry point on the screen? Incidentally, this is the EXIF 16-55 lens, which in terms of focus speed is one of Fujifilm's best. Well, let's change to locked on and the slowest speed. In the background, face detect is interrupted. Nothing in the foreground. Changing to quick and fast. Well, fast when the train is in the station. Not so much in the foreground. Even when we select area and move it to where the train enters the foreground. I'm going to let you be the judge of video stabilization. This is with IS off. Not even worth pressing record on this. Then internal and optical on. A clear improvement. But why isn't digital available? Because it's not compatible with 4K HQ. So switch back to 4K standard so I can turn it on. And that does improve the scene. One more, for static scenes, the digital boost, even better. So, I wanted to know how long a recording I could make with the X T5. That's always a challenge between battery life, card space, and overheating. Thankfully, there are no arbitrary duration limits. I tested using 4K HQ, 30 frames at 360 megabits. I set the auto power off temp to high in a 22 degrees Celsius room. I set media rec to sequential, card 1 first. For power, I connected the USB-C port to power. That's the plug icon, bottom right corner above the battery status display. So power won't be an issue. Then I formatted 6 64GB SDXC cards, 23 minutes each at these settings, and with a card in each slot, I've got 46 minutes to go. Let's start recording. The screen shows a count up of the recording and a count down of the remaining card space. When the first card fills up, recording shifts seamlessly to the second. The first card can be removed and replaced with a new card, which increases the available time again. Incidentally, at these settings, the X T5 does a pretty good job of using card space. The actual size of the recording is 61.5 gigs in a single file, and QuickTime reports an actual data rate of 351 megabits per second. So now that power and card space are no longer issues, I waited for the X T5 to overheat. That didn't happen. So after 2 hours and 20 minutes, with 6 64 gig cards filled, I let it run out. The overheating icon never appeared. And as with previous Fujifilm models, auto aperture reacts to changing light levels with stepped adjustments, while the adjustments made using auto ISO are smoother. You have to pan pretty quickly to see the rolling shutter effect. There is a slight increase in bendiness from HD to 4K and then 4K HQ. And while it is an objectionable artifact, you'll only see it in unusual circumstances. As always, this video and my channel are not sponsored by any vendor or manufacturer, and the X T5 is on loan from Fujifilm Canada, who didn't pay me, suggest this topic, or see the script or the video before posting. My sponsors are my members, who enable me to turn off YouTube's ad interruptions and refuse sponsorships that require me to read ads. So if you value this channel as a less commercial option, then please consider becoming a member by using the Join button below. And recently, YouTube has added a new Super Thanks option below. That's also appreciated. But regardless of your status, I will read and reply to relevant questions and civil comments. Thanks for finding the time to watch today. And stay safe.